Imagine being a German soldier during World War II. You look across the field, you see hundreds of tanks, thousands of troops, an entire army preparing to attack. You report what you've seen. Your commanders prepare defenses. Everyone braces for the battle. Well, there was only one problem. The army wasn't real. The tanks weren't real, and many of the soldiers weren't either. During World War II, the United States assembled one of the strangest military units in history. A secret force whose mission wasn't to fight the enemy. Their mission was to fool them. It was called the Ghost Army. And instead of recruiting famous soldiers, the military recruited artists, painters, designers, architects, sound engineers, people whose talent had nothing to do with war. At least not on paper. Their job was simple: convince the enemy that an army existed where there wasn't one. To do this, they carried something unusual into battle: inflatable tanks. Yes, they did. They had inflatable tanks, giant rubber vehicles that could be packed into a bag, then inflated in minutes. From the air, they looked convincing, especially when viewed from miles away. But fake tanks weren't enough. An army needs soldiers, trucks, equipment, movement, noise, lots of noise. So the Ghost Army created all of it. They drove vehicles in circles to create tire tracks. They built fake camps, hung laundry, created fake headquarters, anything that would convince the enemy they were looking at a real military force. Then came in their most powerful weapon: sound. The unit carried enormous speakers so powerful they could be heard for miles. Engineers recorded real tanks, real trucks, real troops marching, real military activity. Then they played those sounds across the countryside. At night, German forces would hear entire armored divisions moving into position. Except there were no armored divisions, only recordings. And somehow it worked. Again and again. One operation convinced German commanders that tens of thousands of Allied soldiers were preparing, in fact, attacks in the wrong locations. Enemy units were moved. Resources were wasted. Defenses were strengthened in places that would never be attacked. The Ghost Army wasn't destroying enemy forces. They were manipulating decisions, changing what the enemy believed. In war, belief can be just as powerful as bullets. By the end of the war, historians estimate the Ghost Army helped save thousands of lives. Not through firepower, not through combat, but through deception. But here's a crazy part for ya. For decades, almost nobody knew they existed. Many details of their operations remained secret long after the war ended. Thousands of soldiers spent years risking their lives, not by charging into battle, but by convincing the enemy that shadows were armies, that sounds were tanks, and that inflatable rubber vehicles were powerful enough to change history. Because when most people think of war, they think of weapons. But sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a gun. It's making your enemy believe something that isn't true.